Hello and welcome to another Game Nexus arcade video. Today we're going to be taking a look at, I don't know if you can read it on your screen there, but it's Fighter's Impact, which was released on what they like to call the Taito FX1 system. Now, just like my Bloody War video, it's not its own like custom system, but a custom daughter board for the Sony ZN1 system. So it's basically just the same board and they just made their own top board. So I'm gonna pull out here and let's go ahead and take a look at the hardware itself really quick. It's nothing too crazy. As you can see here, here's the ZN board and then the Taito daughter board. Normal audio connector, JAMA, and video converter. So standard stuff. This board actually came from China, and it took a while to come in. It actually went back to the seller, and then I had to wait for it to come back here again. So it had quite a trip in its life, but there's nothing too crazy in the configuration here. You'll see there's like the game style, 1-play or 2-play. I guess it's just if there's a press start on either side, you can turn off the attract mode sound. Difficulty normal is normal. Then of course, I don't know what these character select A and B do, because I haven't seen any difference with them on and off. And then there's style select, which I'll discuss later in the video. But other than that, basically your normal stuff. And it lets you save your information to the system's memory. But let's go ahead and get out of this and let's take a look at some Fighter's Impact. So you'll see here it's going to just go into the normal mode here once it gets out. And then it flashes some colors like some of the early Tekken games do. And eventually it's going to say like wait a moment and then it'll get into the game. Which when I first saw this I was thinking, is something wrong? But yeah, there it goes, only in Japan, and let's take a look at the game. Okay, normally the intro would play here, but of course I've uploaded that as a separate video. As you can see, there are 8 characters available by default. Multiple fighting styles available for multiple characters.
Light or shadow, conduct me, my priest. Now then, go to the field of battle.
And what's really weird about that voice is she just talks like at the beginning of some matches for like no reason whatsoever. And it's not like some fighting games where you start after she's done talking. She just keeps talking sometimes. But what I was gonna say is, as opposed to other fighting games, when you choose a different like costume in this game, it actually gives your character a different fighting style. The only thing I saw that was complaining about that is in Hardcore Gaming on 101, they described like the fighting styles are very similar between the characters. So say your character has Taekwondo and another character has Taekwondo, it's almost the same fighting style. So it's not like if like Hornet had Taekwondo and Kaede had it as well, they would fight differently.
Ready?
And that's one thing I just found a little bit of a problem with in this game, is that stages that have like a ring out ability, it's sometimes a little bit too easy to do a ring out, as you can see there. But one thing I found the strangest thing of this game is nowhere does it actually like say what match you're fighting. Like if you like familiar with like Tekken Virtual Fighter, they'll usually like say stage 1, stage 2, final stage. This game has that nowhere. So I remember when I first played this, I was thinking, so how many matches do I end up fighting? And eventually it just ended after the boss character. But now this game was released in Japanese arcades in 1996, and the arcade version never had an American version. And then what happened was for the Japanese Sony PlayStation on April 25th of 1997, there was the Sony PlayStation version, and apparently there was a PlayStation PS1 Classics version released on June 25th of 2008, because they like releasing those classics, I guess, but it looks like it might have been PlayStation Store for that one.
Ready? Go.
And now the guy you see here, he's one of the sub-bosses, which is actually a few of them. And the funny part is the first time I actually tried playing this, I played as Kaede, and it was this same guy. So I'm thinking that certain characters might have certain sub-bosses, and the same thing will go on for another sub-boss you'll see later. But, now what I was saying is, that sounds like that was a PlayStation Store release, PS1 Classics.
Ready? Go.
But though that would be the only home version of Fighters Impact. And then sometime else in 1997, there was an arcade exclusive and once again Japanese exclusive upgrade called Fighters Impact Ace, which commonly it just shows as a big A, and it says Fighters Impact A, but it's Ace. And the thing that's actually kind of strange about this game is
Ready? Go.
there was technically an American version of this released, but it's kind of like saying there was a released version of Thrill Kill in that Wu-Tang Shaolin Style was a game released using the same engine and assets.
Go.
But basically the gist of it is the game was called Versus, and it was released on PlayStation in 1997, developed by Polygon Magic, the same company that developed this game you see in front of you. But the thing is they completely got rid of all the characters, and they made their own characters, which were based off of some kind of Marvel Comics designer, Curtis Fujita, and it's kind of one of those games that's kind of like Fighters Impact, but in spirit only. Kind of like how I was saying how Wu-Tang Shaolin Style kind of plays a little bit like Thrill Kill, but Wu-Tang Shaolin Style is not a port of Thrill Kill that actually got released. It was kind of another game based off of the same engine, but not the same exact game. But that's basically how Versus in America was compared to this one, which I'll probably at some point, since I'm curious now to see how that plays, try that game.
KO.
The only character in this game
Go.
that doesn't have the multiple fighting styles is, I don't know if you saw him in the selection menu, that Beast character. He only has his like default beastly fighting way, and he doesn't have anything else. And I remember when that had happened to me and Mark had like thrown that really big punch at me and hit me, I was thinking, yeah, that kind of looked like a how do you say it, move that he was like warming up and trying to really get me. Now the only thing I really have to say about this game that might be off-putting for most people who would actually try to play it is the difficulty is honestly all over the place.
Ready?
And one of the big things I've noticed about the difficulty is when you do a couple matches, it tends to be easy. Then it seems like the AI kind of gets used to the character you're playing, and the AI's difficulty rubber bands back, and then gets you, and they totally defeat you. Then you go ahead and select a different character or fighting style, and what do you know? The AI gets dumb again. So it's a really unbalanced difficulty, and you'll see him eventually, but the oh, here's that beast guy. Yukiwo. He only has one fighting style, so you can only select what he does right now as his fighting style. But as I said, it just seems like the AI is very off balance in this game, and I didn't find too much trouble getting through it, but there were a couple times I did like have those really cheap deaths. It was kind of like the character in this round is dumb as a doorknob. They don't hit you at all. Then the next character, all of a sudden, oh my god, they're doing crazy combos and all kinds of connecting moves, and you're like, wow, when did this AI learn to play this game? And then you select a different character when you continue, and all of a sudden they're dumb again. So I would say, as far as Fighters Impact would go, it probably would be a much better game to play with friends than it would be to play against the AI. Unless you're like me and you just like to explore different fighting games and see what they're like. Oh, and I didn't make mention, but that Versus game was also released in Europe in June of 1998 as well. So the next year, they released their quote-unquote localized version of Fighters Impact to Europe as well.
From the darkness.
And yes, I did lose to Dr. Wiz a few times.
Go.
And what you were hearing there was that weird lady talking, and she doesn't stop, and you're still, like, you're fighting. Now, Dr. Wiz is one of the sub-bosses, but all Dr. Wiz does is he's a clone of your character's default fighting style in this, like, weird dreamscape level, and the character is kind of like a black and white version of you. And it's like kind of weird, like at first this music sounds very threatening, and then all of a sudden it's like this like classic-y sounding 50s tune. It's the weirdest music track I've heard in a fighting game.
Go.
And yes, as I was saying just like earlier, when I had first played this as Kaede, Dr. Wiz was also my sub-boss before the final boss, so it's probably what sub-boss you get will be the sub-boss or the final boss that you play. But I will most likely be trying out Versus now that I've played this game a certain amount, and I'd be curious to see what that game looks like.
Oh, Chaos, with your almighty... Ready? Go.
And as I said, I had lost to the final boss here a few times.
Ring out.
Basically, what you had heard there was the lady here's default voice where she's saying all the weird things about the characters, or just random stuff she talks about.
Ring out.
And it wouldn't have stopped until the match had already started, just like I had mentioned before. But the one thing I'll mention about this ending boss guy, when his AI is halfway decent, and of course I just noticed I left a loss in there, but that was actually a pretty quick one. But I will say that I lost a few times to him, and he was, how do you say it, he goes from either being really dumb, or he's crazy pulling off combos. More or less, it's like he's trying to ring out you no matter what he can possibly do. And 99% of the time, he's successful. Now, he seems like he's a pretty good boss character, except when he's, like, really dumb like you're seeing right now. And I can remember when I played this, I was like, oh my god, now he's gotten smarter again? Why is this happening? But this is one of those games that I wouldn't say is like a top-tier 3D fighting game. I like the graphics. That's one thing I can definitely say is really nice. The game looks great. But it doesn't exactly play the best. It's kind of a mixed bag. If you had a good few friends to play this game with, it would be a lot more entertaining than playing it alone.
Darkness.
My only guess is that, like, Darkness you heard was the ending boss, so he was, like, not defeated? But
I can remember when I played that, I was like, wait, what was that? I didn't quite hear what it was, but it's just it sounded like it was the ending boss going, darkness. But then again, everything about the style of this game is kind of crazy. Even like the beginning, it's just a bunch of random images. And one of these days I might like slow down the intro and see like what all the images are, because like, especially toward the end before it cuts to gameplay, you can't really see what a lot of those images that flash by the screen so quickly actually are. But yeah, that was Fighter's Impact. As I said, it's a pretty good fighting game, but it's kind of one of those games that's like really off balance as far as the AI and the gameplay go. And it's not like one of those that you'll find yourself coming back to. So it would be worth a try in like your favorite emulator, or if you want to grab the PlayStation version, which has all the extra characters, like the sub-bosses all playable and everything, and a bunch of enhancements and stuff, which one of these days I'm probably going to have to give that version a try. But Fighter's Impact is a decent game, and a curiosity more than anything. Well, this has been another Game Nexus arcade video, and I shall see you later. Bye.